Okay, welcome back to math class. Today we're going to be talking about using the distributive property, basically to undo what we learned how to do in previous sections. So we've been talking about multiplying polynomials together using the distributive property, and now we're going to learn about something called factoring. When you think of factoring, basically just think of doing the distributive property, what we learned before, backwards. And I think the best way to show you how to do this is just to walk through an example together. Okay, so if I have 15w minus 3v, the first thing I'm going to do is find the greatest common factor of both terms. So that's the greatest number that we can divide out of both of these factors. So in this case, that looks like it's going to be 3, right? Because we can take 3 out of both of these. When I do that, yeah, 15 and 3 can both be divided by 3, but that's the biggest number that they can both be divided by. And when I do that, what I'm going to be left with is 3 on the outside, 5w minus v. Right? Because when we divide, when I take 3 out of 15, I have 5 left over. When I take 3 out of 3, I just have 1 left over. Seems pretty simple. Hopefully, we just if you had a problem that looked like this, you would distribute to both. So we just took it back out, basically. So let's try another one. What if I had 20x plus 4? So if I'm looking at this, what is going to be the greatest common factor? It's probably going to be 4, because 4 goes into 4 and 4 can go into 20. If I take 4 out of 20, I'm going to be left with 5x, and if I take 4 out of 4, I just have 1. Then we'll put our 4 on the outside. So we find the greatest common factor, and we're doing what I'm going to call the reverse distributive property. Reverse distributive property. Okay, now when you just have two terms, that's pretty easy, but we aren't going to only have 2 terms in every problem that we solve. Sometimes we'll have 4 or even more. Now when you have 4 or more terms, we're going to still factor it, but this time we're going to do factoring by grouping. That's when we have 4 or more terms. So again, let's walk through an example together. R times n plus 5n minus r minus 5. Now the first step of factoring by grouping is to group together terms that have common factors. So this is no longer our first step. Now our first step is group terms with common factors. Okay, so looking at this one, the ones that have common factors, it looks like Both of these have 5s and both of these have r's. We could have done it while both of these have n's, but if you look, these don't have a common factor. So we're going to group together the ones with r's and do rn minus r plus 5n minus 5. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is what I did with the binomial from before, except I'm going to do it in parts. I'm going to go rn minus r, I can take r out of and get n minus 1. Now with 5n minus 5, I can take a 5 out, so I'm going to go plus 5, and that's going to give me 5n divided by 5 is n, and negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. So that's my reverse distributive property here. Now what you'll notice about these is that we now have r times n minus 1 and 5 times n minus 1. These are the same. Now that we know that we're the same, we're going to do, again, the opposite of what we did when we split them up, when we were multiplying polynomials. I'm going to bring the r and the plus 5, r plus 5 into its own binomial times n minus 1. So basically what I did is I took that lesson where we were multiplying polynomials and I'd done it backwards from the solution we got. Because see, if we were looking at it the other way, if I gave you this and you multiplied it out, you would separate it like this and then you would multiply it. So I've just done our steps in reverse order from what we did in the past. Let's try one more together. Three MP plus 15p minus 4n minus 20. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing where I start by grouping them by their like terms. Now it looks like we have a 3 and a p here. We could also take 3 and p out of there. And then we can take 4 or negative 4 out of both of these. So these are already grouped pretty well. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I take 3 and p out of this one, I just get m left over. And if I take 3 and p out of this one, I get a 5 left over. Now here it looks like I can take negative 4 out of both of these. If I take negative 4 out of both of these, minus 4m divided by negative 4 is going to give us just m. Negative 20 divided by negative 4 is going to give us 5. Okay, now looking at it, we have m plus 5 and m plus 5, so we can combine these guys into their own binomial. 3p minus 4 times m plus 5, using our reverse distributive property, going backwards the way that we've done it this whole time. And that's where you'll stop.